r/AskReddit. Guys of Reddit, what's the creepiest/weirdest way a woman has hit on you? Reminds me of when I was in college. It's a long story, but I got really depressed and drove my 92 VW Jetta from Idaho and was trying to get to Santa Barbara. Somewhere near Modesto my car overheated and I ditched it in a gas station parking lot. During this period of my life I was clinically depressed and not thinking entirely rationally. Ended up getting rides with strangers and hitchhiking with a trucker. Well, I managed to make my way down to Santa Clarita, but I needed a ride on 126 West to Santa Barbara. No luck anywhere. I walked into a Circle K at about 3:30 AM and talked to this biker and the lady clerk. I forget the biker's name, but the woman, well, she's a bit of a ham planet. And her name was Tracy. But she offered to drive me to Santa Barbara when she got off work at like 7 AM. I gladly accepted and decided to sleep on the floor of the convenience store beneath the table in the dining area. I would wake up every 30 minutes to hear Tracy brag to all her regulars about how she was going to drive me to Santa Barbara and that she's never been there. Hooray. Eventually I don't wake up as frequently and even sleep for a few hours. When I finally do wake up, I look around, but no Tracy. What the heck, I thought. Even though I'm tired and barely awake, I ask the new attendant, Where's Tracy? Oh, she just went home to shower. She'll be back soon. And you better believe about 30 minutes later Tracy shows up, freshly showered, hair slicked straight back and greasy wet, wearing a dress that only goes about halfway down her pudgy thighs, which also had a few bruises on them. I hopped into her white Honda Civic, we fuel, and speed off. The conversation was awkward and sparse during the 45-minute drive. Tracy had also applied a little perfume, but it didn't really help. When we finally get to Santa Barbara, I just asked her to drop me off at a Trader Joe's by the exit. But before I left, Tracy slides her porky fingers on my thigh and with just a slight coyness says, "So, do you want me to hang out for a bit?" I was like, nope, and jumped out of the car. Maybe I'm old-fashioned, but I didn't want to have my first sexual experience be with an overweight stranger in her Honda Civic mid-morning at a Trader Joe's parking lot. Preface: my oldest sister is 15 years older than me and moved away when I was 4. I'm 18, in college, working nights in a convenience store. Around 6:30 one morning a woman walked in looking like she had been hit by a truck. She sees me and asks, "Hey, are you girl Russia Files' brother?" "I am. I'm Lulu. I'm a friend of your sister. We went to high school together." I asked if she was okay. "Yeah. My husband beat me up." "Wow. Can I call the police for you?" "No. But could you give me a ride to the..." Okay." I get off work in 30. I drive her there and wait while she secures lodging. "Want to come in?" "No thanks. I think I want to go home, grab a beer, and get some sleep." "Know what I want? A good fucking, and I think you're the guy to do it." She has 2 black eyes, a missing tooth, and bloody lips, and let's not forget the psychopathic husband roaming the moors. I noped right the fuck out of there and have never regretted the decision. Years ago I used to work in the meat department of a supermarket. It was the late afternoon and I was all alone. As I was refilling the case, 2 of my friends who lived nearby stopped to say hi because they were shopping. We are chatting away and I suddenly hear someone loudly yell, "Oh meat boy." Then this one Abe cougar saunters over and puts her arm around my shoulder. This woman had to be in her late 50s, was wearing skimpy clothing that left nothing to the imagination, reeked of alcohol and cigarettes, her breath stank of rot, and she had the voice of a dying bullfrog. I say she was a one Abe cougar and that cougars are attractive. This woman definitely was. She then says in an attempt at a sultry voice, which with her voice was not, "Oh, my meat boy. I need the biggest piece of meat you can get me." Now, my friends are still standing nearby. In fact, they were about a yard away. I keep a professional demeanor and try to politely step away and out of her taloned grasp. It doesn't work. She had a near-death grip on me. I state that I just put some fresh steaks that were on sale into the case. No, I want a bigger piece of meat. By now I feel like I need to take a shower in bleach. This woman's arm was still around me as I desperately tried to move away. My friends are trying their hardest not to laugh. I then blurt out that I will run into our cooler to see what we had. I run in, grab the biggest package of steak I could find, and practically throw it at her in the most professional way I could. Is this the biggest piece of meat you have? It is. Oh, I was hoping for bigger, but I guess this will do. She walks away. My friends' faces were beet red and they say, "Have a good day meat boy," and walk away. They still bring it up to this day. A girl reached out to me on FB who lived in my neighborhood, said she was looking for friends, and asked to meet up. Being new to the hood myself, I said sure. We met at a bar, and she was a little troll of a woman. Not only was she fat and ugly, she just had a nasty personality and complained about everything. I tried to be nice about having other plans and needing to go, but she followed me. I awkwardly let her tag along to a friend's house. When we arrived, within 10 minutes my friend soured on her, and the host pulled me aside and said, "You gotta get her out of here." I offered to drive her back to her house, and when we arrived she asked me to come in. I politely declined, and she said I could do whatever I wanted to her. I had no desire to do any such thing, so I said thanks but no thanks. Then she said she wasn't getting out of the car unless I came inside and got a blowjob. After more deliberation I said okay and followed her to her door. She had a picket fence with a gate out front, so as soon as she went through the gate I closed it and ran back to my car. She started yelling and screaming at me and tried to open the doors, which I had quickly locked. I tried to pull out of the space, but she blocked me in. I backed up onto the curb to get around her, and she pushed in my side mirrors and bent my antenna, screaming obscenities as I peeled out. 0/10 would not pay the troll toll again. Edit. My top rated comment of all time is about getting almost raped by a troll. Back in college, around 1995 or so, this girl I was in a class with became friendly with me. I wasn't all that attracted to her, but she was cool and funny. One day she comes to class and talks about how her stereo's tape player was broken, and she couldn't play any tapes. I offer to lend her mine. She gets really happy when I tell her. She says that she just needs my tape deck for a couple of nights. Fine, whatever. The next time we have class together, I bring in my tape deck. She takes my tape deck home, and I don't hear from her for a week or so. Finally I ask about my tape deck in class, and she dodges my question. I'm starting to get worried. She's had my tape deck for a week now, and I miss being able to play tapes. After another week, with her being really friendly to me the whole time, I ask when I'm going to get my tape deck back. She just smiles coyly. Then she says, "I'm not giving you your tape player back until you ask me out." No. I'm not attracted to her. She's cool, but I'm not interested in going out with her. Plus which, that's emotional blackmail. Knowing that she was capable of that is a huge strike in the minus column. I wouldn't want to go out with someone so manipulative. Long story short, she steadfastly held on to my tape deck for months while we became better friends. Soon she introduced me to some of her friends, and I hit it off with one of them. I started dating her, and it made tape deck hostage girl furious. She got really jealous. Eventually she returned my tape deck tearfully. She stopped hanging out with me shortly thereafter. We stopped having classes together, and I gradually stopped dating her friend too. I was at a club with some friends and we were just casually dancing on the floor when a girl came up and joined us. I could tell that she was into me by the way she gave me looks and danced towards me all the time. She wasn't too bad looking, but I just wasn't that interested in hooking up with someone that night, and I also started to feel that something was kinda off about her. She was by herself BTW. I was wearing a snapback that night and eventually she pulled the overused stealing the boy's hat to show that I'm interested move. I didn't mind it at first, but soon my friends wanted to move on, so I grabbed my hat back from the girl and followed my friends. 10 seconds later she ran up behind me and snatched my hat again and ran off. At this point I'm starting to get irritated. I didn't run after her, but I walked around the crowd and eventually I sneaked up behind her and grabbed the hat back and walked away. She immediately took it back and ran away to another dance floor. This time I ran after her and managed to catch up with her and stop her, and I just said, seriously, just give me back my fucking hat. Prior to this moment she was acting all jiggly and innocent, but when I said that, her face just went apeshit and she looked like a demon and she refused to let the fucking hat go. So I yanked it back really fucking hard from her. The hat almost broke. She was a surprisingly strong young lady and with the same posse's looking face as before. She just flipped me off and walked away. Lol. TL. Doctor, a girl at a club, refused to give me my hat back after taking it multiple times from me. At the last confrontation she went apeshit on me. Got the hat, so I won. She set me on fire. We were in the army together, and one of the things that soldiers do is use lighters to burn loose strings off of each other's uniforms, because having loose strings is something command likes to bitch about. Maintaining a professional appearance and all that. Anyway, she was in feet Benning for airborne school at the time and I would visit her during her time off and hang out. So we are driving in my car with her in the passenger seat, I think heading to get some food or something. I'm wearing a long sleeve hoodie and I guess she spots a loose string on the sleeve because she tries to burn it off, not thinking that the hoodie is not like our uniforms and is covered in extremely flammable lint. I have my eyes on the road, so I don't see it as the fire races lightning fast up my arm, but I feel it burn the side of my neck right as she starts screaming. Needless to say, the combination of her screaming and me being on fire freaks me out a bit, but I managed to maintain control of the car while she's slapping the shit out of my arm trying to put me out. Finally, after a couple of seconds, she dumps a soda over me and extinguishes my arm, and I pull off the road into a parking lot. There's a few moments of silence in the car. I'm staring forward at the dash trying to collect myself. Then I look at her. She has tears in her eyes and can only stammer out, "I was just trying to be nice." I reply with, "We could have died." She looks crushed. We had just the previous night confessed our feelings for each other after having been close friends for a while, so things were in a weird place between us. I don't know why, partly because of the intensity of the moment and I guess all the adrenaline or something, but I move in to kiss her. I guess she was pretty ramped up too, and we start going at it, making out like crazy and groping each other. Things were escalating quickly until I remembered we were in public and can't do this as soldiers. It would be a big deal if we were caught, especially for her, since she was in a training school at the time. So we cancelled our dinner plans and went back to my hotel room and things went from there. We ended up getting married a little while later, although unfortunately it ended up not working out and we parted ways amicably. I always liked to tell her that moment when she set me on fire was when I knew she was the one. I haven't been married since 2007 and have went out of my way to not have contact with my ex-wife. For a long time I avoided social media entirely, changed my cell phone number to stop the phone calls, shut down all but my Hotmail account, which was shut down by manuscript anyway, deleted my IM accounts, etc. To this day, I refuse to use my real name on my Gmail account, and my Facebook has no pictures of me at all to identify me by, or any other information. I share my name with about a half dozen family members, so it's fairly common, making it harder to find me. Not that it's impossible to find me. Another crazy ex-GF found me on FB shortly after I created the account. Fast forward to about 2013. She started putting down my address for various things. Not only that, but she started putting my last name after her name. I now have a couple magazine subscriptions for my ex-wife arriving monthly and constantly have mail from collages, credit card companies, catalogs, etc. all in either her maiden name or her name while married to me. This has been ongoing until late last year when the magazines finally stopped. I guess the renewal was sent to me and I didn't notice or care. The rest hasn't though. I throw away a dozen or more items of junk she had sent to my address in her name. I don't know if she's trying to get my attention or what. It is creepy as fuck though. I have a few vying for the top, but this one definitely has a flavor to it. I was at this long vanished music venue to see a band I loved, Vast. Two things about this venue. 1. It was by far the nastiest, scummiest, most repellent joint in town. You want a vaccination before you go, and a full body Comet and steel wool scrub down when you get home. The owner hated musicians and things like liquor licenses. The bathrooms. I'll just stop there. The second thing is that I was magically sexually attractive here. I'm awkward, unappealing, odd looking, creepy. People I've never spoken to before volunteer their opinions about my looks from time to time. But here, for some reason, I'm magnetic. Every time I go, I get hit on, hard. But damned if that place isn't awful. I go to shows to see the band, nothing else. Not to drink, not to socialize, not to post about it on Facebook. For all of that, some boozy gal latches onto me towards the end of the show. She's yammering on. I'm trying to listen to the music. She's lonely, says. I'm fixedly staring at the stage. I'm taking it in that she's going to prison soon. Why? Her hobby is getting absolutely loaded and going driving. Over and over again. Crosby comes back for the encore. Queen DUI is talking about all of the car crashes she's been in. I'm ignoring her. She grabs my hand and tells me that she's had a bunch of operations, scars, skin moved from the crashes. I hear some opening bits sampled from Lemistades Volksbulgars. Finally the song I came for. I lean forward in anticipation. Just as John Crosby sings Touched, You Say That I. She shoves my hand into her shirt, so I'm now feeling the rough skin graft where a nipple might have once lived, thus demonstrating her point and changing my feelings about the track forever. Queen DUI, wherever you are, I really will never find someone quite like you again. I don't know if it's hitting on necessarily, but this happened recently, so it comes to mind. In my early 20s I worked for a residential care company, and one of my co-workers had a daughter who was kind of odd. She was 12 or so when I first met her at the office during a meeting, and then every week my coworker would tell me what her daughter said about me and how cool she thought I was. I was like, okay. Tell her I said hi. Shortly after this my coworker lost custody of her daughter because she married a convicted pedo, and not long after that my coworker asked if she could give her daughter my email address because she'd like to have someone to talk to since she's living with her dad. I said okay, because this girl has it hard enough. It's no trouble to me to reply to the occasional email. For the next couple of years she would send me stories that she was writing, and she was actually pretty clever. I did not mind at all, and I would give her advice the best I could with my community college education. A few months later I'm at the fair with my wife when I run into this girl. Apparently something had changed with her mom's husband's ability to be around children, and she's back. She's living in town. She's at the fair with one of her cousins and she's wearing a Home Depot apron over her clothes, like it's no big deal. She asks me if I will go on a ride with her that her cousin is too afraid to go on, and I agree. After the ride she gives me a big hug and asks if I will come to the fair with just her next year. I told her that I didn't think that would be a great idea since I like to go with my wife and enjoy some beers, but that I would always go on a ride with her if she wanted me to. She seems to understand, and we go our separate ways. The emails continue without much change, other than she's hinting more about this going to the fair together stuff. I finally told her that if she makes it through high school with a 3.8 or better GPA through her junior year I will go to the fair with her, just the two of us, and only during the day. This was the summer before she started 9th grade. At this point my wife, this girl's mom, and I are all working for the same company. I catch my wife in a lie, and at the bottom of that rabbit hole is that she's cheating on me with another coworker. This is a relatively small town, and people start railing against my wife, so she starts pumping out lies, so it sounds like she had a valid reason to leave that had nothing to do with her cheating. So I'm working at this place with these people for months after this, and my co-worker's daughter is still emailing me and tells me that my wife is now pregnant with this fuck's kid and that they are naming him Michael after me. There are so many reasons why I have to leave this shit town, and that's what I do. As I start to establish my life 300 miles away, this girl gets a MySpace page and adds me as a friend. Fine, whatever. We don't really talk much, and I sort of forget about my pledge to go to the fair with her. Plus, what are the chances she'll want to be seen with a guy who's pushing 30 at the fair the summer before her senior year? Well, she reminds me occasionally, so that's looking like it's going to happen as she emails me copies of her transcript, and she's a kicker student. When I went home for a visit in June of that year, I ran into 7-Eleven to get some cigarettes and hear her, Michael, coming from a car parked in front. It turns out it's her. She's 17 so she can drive. She gets out and we talk for a bit, and she asks what I'm doing in town, and I tell her visiting with my grandma and going to a party later. She asks about the party, and I told her it was just a smaller get together at a friend's house and I was leaving the next day. That's the entirety of the conversation, and we go our separate ways. An hour later, I'm sitting at my mom's house looking at MySpace on my laptop when I see she's made a post that's something like this. Just ran into this guy I used to like that I haven't seen in a few years, and he tried to get me to go to a party with him. You're not getting me drunk. Perf. She had given me her cell phone number a while back, and I pulled up the email and texted her, asking why she would say those things about me. Her response was, "It wasn't about you, silly." Oh. I didn't talk to her for probably close to 7 years after that, and she stopped trying to reach me during that time too, until I was looking for an old friend's number in my saved texts. I never delete them, and accidentally texted her. At this point she was out of college and married and wanted to know how I had been. We caught up over the next couple days, became Facebook friends, and then a couple months later I get a Facebook Messenger message from her that says, "Hey, you remind me of 1998, when the Undertaker threw mankind off HLL in a cell and plummeted 16 feet through an announcer's table. Just kidding." It said this: "I'm sure this is going to get buried. I can't believe how much I've written, and I've got to go to lunch." I have pictures of what she actually wrote, if there's any interest, when I come back and edit. Edited to at, sorry about that. I don't like leaving personal things up when I go to lunch, since all the workstations have the same unsecure password. Thank you so much for watching the whole video. Please leave a like and subscribe.